from Minnesota Beer Activists here with writer Michael Agnew talking about his new book. So tell us about your new book. The name of it is?
It's called A Perfect Pint's Beer Guide to the Heartland.
And the Heartland being?
Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, and Illinois.
Excellent.
Kind of a random decision to call it the Heartland. We actually went through this whole rigmarole to figure out what we were going to call the region. I'm working on the book, so was just calling it the Upper Midwest. Publisher, for some reason, didn't like that because somebody said that we couldn't talk about the Upper Midwest without including Michigan.
I suppose.
So we went through this whole mess trying to figure out what do we call this, and they came up with the Heartland. So
I'll take it.
Yeah.
So what is your guide? What kind of things do you cover in your book?
So it's a catalog of all of the breweries in those 4 states up to March 1st of last year. That's when I turned in the manuscript and couldn't add any more breweries. So anything that's opened after March 1st, it's probably in my breweries and planning list, but it doesn't get a full profile. For all the breweries that are in there, which is 236 of them, so it's a pretty good survey anyway. It goes over all the basic who, what, where, whens. I talk about who is the owner, who's the brewer, what size and make of brewing system do they have, what are the year-round beers, seasonal releases, special releases, what are some attractions you can visit if you're visiting there. I give a little bit of notes on what I found interesting about the brewery, so it's not necessarily I intentionally did not do a 4-state beer review. So I don't talk all the time about the beer. It's really, when I visited them and talked to them, what was the story that struck me as making that place really unique and interesting. And then I have Michael's pick, which is, it's totally subjective. It's just, when I tasted the beers there, what did I want to order a pint of?
So what would Michael's pick of, so you have a pick of each brewery, what would your pick from like Iowa be? What would be your top Michael's pick?
In terms of breweries?
Yeah.
Gosh, that's a tough question. I think the brewery that stands out to me the most in Iowa is a little tiny brewery in western Iowa called CIB.
Okay.
And the reason it stands out is the flavors that the main brewer was getting from it. It's a father and son. They have very different approaches to brewing. So the father's beers are really sort of core homebrew styles, strong homebrew styles.
What do you mean by strong? You mean high ABV?
High ABV, yeah. The son is a chef and a sommelier. So he's approaching his beers from a completely different direction. So he has cultured yeast from the brewery that he uses exclusively. And he's really bringing all these interesting kind of food-like, chef-like flavors into it. The best beer that I had from them is one that really stands out to me. It's called Orange Scorpion. It uses ghost chilies and Trinidad Scorpion chilies, the 2 hottest chilies in the world, which you would think would be like an insane fire beer, which I hate those.
Yeah.
This is like a caramely amber ale with these orange overtones and just this tingle of heat on the way down. It's a beautiful beer.
Now, how do they incorporate the chilies into the beer? Are they fresh chilies? I'm assuming they're dry.
Fresh, actually.
Fresh?
Yeah.
Interesting.
I believe that's what he told me. That was a long time ago, but I think he told me they were fresh. And they actually had to work pretty hard to source those.
I would bet.
Those chilies.
I would bet. Interesting. What was your funnest brewery out of the whole Heartland?
So the ones that, first of all, the most fascinating.
Yeah.
And it's probably the most fascinating brewery tour I've ever been on, was the Granite City Warehouse, also in Iowa, where they make all the beer for all of the Granite City locations.
For those that don't know Granite City and their setup, that's where they make all the wort and ship it to all the different brew pubs around the Midwest, essentially,
Yeah,
right?
so they truck it there in tanker trucks. And that's what made it fascinating, because that's just a horrific nightmare of a brewing scenario, to brew your wort in one place and then truck it in tanker trucks where it gets fermented in other places.
I would imagine it's got to be tough for sanitation.
Yeah, and that is the issue, and that's what made it so fascinating. So the brewer there, Corey O'Neill, his background is quality control for breweries. And so he has instituted all of these different protocols to try and make that system work. It doesn't always work. But just talking to him about what they do and how they work it to try and protect the beer and try and make the best beer they can at the Granite City locations with this crazy system was really fascinating. I mean, they test the beer at every stage of the game. They cultivate their own yeast, so they have a yeast lab. So the yeast, you know those big sort of cube plastic water jugs?
Sure.
The yeast goes with every batch of beer in one of those.
They just ship it right along.
Yeah.
Wow. Is it temperature controlled? Is it, I mean, can't be that far from the tanker to the brew pub.
They go to 23 locations in several states.
Probably not more than 8 hours from start to finish. Though,
Yeah, probably not. It's probably not more than 8 hours. I'm not sure what the farthest away is, actually.
Interesting.
I want to say they've got locations in Indiana. That might be the furthest away they get.
So what was the biggest challenge when writing the book? Was it keeping up with all the new breweries popping up?
Definitely. When I started the book, that was December 2010, and I compiled the best possible list I could. I consulted several sources looking for all the breweries in all the states, and I had about 165 breweries on the list. And like I said, 236 is what ultimately ended up in the book 2.5 years later. So in 2.5 years, we went from 165 to 236, and I just had to stop because there wouldn't have been an end otherwise.
Yeah.
And it got harder and harder because more and more of the breweries that were opening up were little nano breweries, people brewing on these tiny, tiny little systems. And really, with a brewery like that, unless you're on the ground in that place where it is,
You don't know.
no, we don't know that it's opening either.
Yeah. What was the smallest one you went to?
There were several that were brewing on Sabco systems, so brewing, half-barrel batches. There were lots of those. So that would be the smallest. I can't say there was one smaller than that.
And the other end, the largest would have been
Miller Coors.
Miller Coors.
In Milwaukee, without question. Huge. Well, actually, Miller Coors, just in terms of production, yes, Miller Coors would be the biggest. But in terms of the biggest brew house, this was amazing to me. So City Brewing in La Crosse, Wisconsin, their brewery, their mash tun and boil kettle holds, well over 1,000 barrels.
Well, a lot of contract comes out of the city, correct?
That's all they do.
That's all they do.
They don't have their own brands at all. It's only contract.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of malt liquor comes out of there.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff that comes
Malt
out
liquor, malt beverages, as they call
right.
it, alcoholic malt beverages.
Alternative, yeah, a lot of stuff.
Just looking at it, because they have a sign on the mash tun and the brew kettle saying how much they hold, and seeing that, it's like, oh, that's the biggest brewery I have ever seen. It was like 1,300 barrels, something like that.
Wow. So how big a challenge was it to get it all done? And I guess we kind of talked about the challenge was getting all the breweries done while everything was expanding. What was the most fun? Was it traveling from spot to spot? Was it talking to the brewers? Was it tasting all the different beers? What did you get the most enjoyment out of when it came to touring all the different spots?
Two of the things you said combined. Tasting the beers with the brewers. That was the most fun. So sitting with a brewer with a flight of beers, often, we would both have a flight of beers in front of us and we would taste our way through. And just sort of talking through each of the beers with the brewers. That was just phenomenal. was so much fun. And I learned a lesson there. And this is a good lesson for everybody out there. If a brewer asks you your opinion, they really want your opinion. And they want your honest opinion. If they don't ask you your opinion, they really don't want your opinion. So don't offer it. Just drink the beer and enjoy it.
Good to know. Good to know. What should people know about the book when they pick it up? What's the one thing they should know about the new book?
It is intended as a travel guide. So it's intended if you're going to a place, you can easily look up what are the breweries that are nearby to visit. It's not intended as a book that you sit down and read cover to cover. I had to do that multiple times. And while, of course, I think it's well written, don't do that. It really is intended as, I'm going to this place, I want to know what's there, because I want to, visit the breweries and drink some good beer.
Like a travel restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
Travel guide type of deal. Excellent. If people want to find the book, where can they get their hands on it?
It's available at any online bookseller.
So Amazon,
Barnes & Noble, all of them actually.
And if they want an autograph, they can
contact me. I don't have it up yet, but I am putting together a Square Marketplace site where it will be available to pick up.
You've got a launch party at Town Hall Brewery on Monday, right?
On Monday, yeah. Monday the 26th.
4 to 7, I believe?
4 to 7. We're going to be in that back room, the new remodeled Town Hall. And Town Hall is offering a free pint voucher for every book sold.
Sweet.
So you can get a book and get a pint.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
I'm assuming they're in the book.
Of course they're in the book. It's also, so Monday nights are new release nights for Town Hall, so they'll be releasing some new beer that they wouldn't tell me what it was.
Top secret. Awesome. Well, thanks for sitting down, Michael Agnew. Check out the new book. It's A Perfect Pint's Guide to the Heartland.
Perfect Pint's Beer Guide to the Heartland.
Sweet. Cheers. Thanks, man.
Cheers.